What is up, Dream Team? So this is day, I'd say maybe 25, 24, somewhere around there. Yeah, I started implementing different variation of push-ups, different variation, or not different variations yet, but different squats. And so we're starting to build. And I was thinking it would be kind of nice if some of you guys wanted to follow along. So we're gonna do the same thing that we did yesterday. So I would encourage you, if you wanted to, if you could, just do as many as you can, follow along as far as you can, push yourself, and then watch tomorrow's video and the same thing, just follow along and push yourself, and little by little it'll just become easier. So yeah, because it's kind of nice. I've heard a couple people started doing it because of the video, so it's kind of cool. It's starting a little movement. So anyways, follow along. 10 slow push-ups again, 10 side-to-side push-ups, 10 shoulder taps, 10 bear crawls, and then repetition again, 10 slow, 10 side-to-side, 10 shoulder taps, 10 bear crawls, and then we'll finish off with 10 slow push-ups. 20 slow push-ups. So anyways, I would encourage you guys to follow along. If you can't do the variation of push-ups, just do normal push-ups, good quality push-ups, quality over quantity. All right. So Dream Team, let's get it. We're gonna do those push-ups and then we'll do 50 squats. So if you'd like to do squats, follow along too. All right. We'll get there. We'll all get there, team. Let's get it. All right.
So I was actually a pretty good student. A lot of times entrepreneurs are like, failed, school failed me, or like I wasn't interested in school. I wouldn't say I was interested in school, but school was fine. You know what I mean? I did the work. I graduated early from college, magna cum laude from Vanderbilt, which is a school in Tennessee. Did pretty well on standardized tests. Got a good job after that as a management consultant. Had a pretty prestigious firm that just focused on strategy. But we were in the public sector, so it was defense contracting, so space, cyber intelligence. It sounds very sexy. It was not very interesting for me at the time. Really got depressed during that period because I felt like there was nothing else for me to achieve. I kind of done everything that I thought I was supposed to do at age 22 or whatever. And so I looked into starting a business because that was what I ultimately wanted to do.
Pushes, baby.
Applied to a bunch of business schools. They were like, how will this help your short and long-term goals? After spending like 3 days thinking about it, I realized it wasn't going to. And so I figured I would save the 200 grand in 2 years of not making money and just put it into a business. I'd saved about 50 or 60 grand at the time when I was 22 and just living cheap. And I used that to start my first business. So I was choosing between test prep, frozen yogurt, and a gym, something fitness related. And I couldn't afford the yogurt because it was like 250 grand. And test prep I could afford, but I had like a falling out with the person who was supposed to partner with me on it. So fitness was kind of what was left, and I could afford to do it. And I knew how. At that point, I was already competing, powerlifting, not bodybuilding, and I was just like super into fitness at that point. I've been training for I think like 7 years. 7 or 8 years at that point. And so then I started a gym. So I drove out to California, started my first facility against the wishes of everybody who knew me.
That's fine.
And slept on the floor there. Learned a lot the hard way, and was able to open up a second location at month 15, then open up a new location every 6 months after that. And then we had 6 locations. I sold 5 of them. I shut one of them down, and then I started doing a turnaround business where we fly around 2 gyms and get them to full capacity in about 30 days. That's right when I met Layla. And so she was flying out with me right at that time. I had this idea of this new business model. And so we did that for about 2 years. We did 30-something turnarounds. And then from there, we got it really down pat. And so then we started licensing that to brick and mortar facilities.
All right.
Now we have, we licensed over 5,000 facilities that model for the next 5 years. And then we started a company to sell through that distribution base of thousands of gyms called Prestige Labs. The other company is called Gym Launch. After that, in 2019, we started Allen, which is our software company, which also sold through that distribution base. And in 2021, we sold all 3 of those companies, 2 of them to a private equity firm called American Pacific Group. For 2 of those were for $46.2 million, and then the other one We sold to a strategic partner, which we were under NDA for the price, but we did $12 million in the trailing 12 months leading into the sale. And that was an all-stock deal, so we basically contributed assets to an entity. They did too, and then the hope is that 5 years from now, that next sale will be significantly larger. And so from there, we started our family office, acquisition.com, and we started investing our own money.
That's
so
fine.
at that point, we'd probably taken about 45 million in dividends out prior to our exit. And so we had a decent amount of cash on hand, and I had never really done any investing, and I felt like that's kind of the phase that I wanted to get into. But rather than kind of putting it all in the stock market, which I feel like I'd be competing against people that had an advantage over me, I was like, well, why don't I just invest in businesses that I know and understand and can add value to? And so that's been pretty much the thesis behind acquisition.com, was finding businesses that we, that are simple, that we can understand, that we can scale. And so now we have 16 portfolio companies, and right now in aggregate, I think they do about 200 million a year. Depends every month, kind of, it's a little bit volatile, but that's kind of the current run rate of those portfolio companies. And usually we have between 20 and 51%, of the businesses that we're invested in, and that's our jam.
Are they all in the same genre? Okay.
So everything from, photography studios for kids all the way to mortgage sales, just different businesses. It's really just like, do we have a simple business model that has 1 to 2 products that we understand? A lot of times, like red flags for us when we're looking at businesses is, do we see an entrepreneur that's super scattered, who can't focus on anything? You can often see that because a lot of times the business is a reflection of the entrepreneur. And so if everything's scattered, everything's erratic, there's 5 different things going on, and they're doing 10 million a year, it's like, well, why don't you just pick one and get it to 100? And so that's kind of the approach that we tend to have, is like, maybe there's a front end product and a back end product, awesome. And most people end up creating new products because they just don't know how to sell more of the first one, and then end up creating all these appendages attached to the business that ultimately make it harder to run.
Obviously, there's I'm a little privy to some more so the earlier part of the stories. Alex says if anybody's on shop on Spotify right now, he's assessing what protein bar he's going to consume.
We'll see which one I'm going to go for.
There's a big decision, but I'm a little privy to some inside stories too. I do want to, for the viewers, watching this, a lot of people in the early stages of like starting up a business, or maybe they're in the fitness industry and they're looking at themselves as a brand, as a business. I know that you mentioned earlier, before you went through this incredible, history of what you started and where
That's
you are
60,
now.
baby.
But you really had a rags to riches story. You kind of skimmed the earlier part of life, of where you opened up a gym. But you really had, a lot of failures that you've learned from. And when the earlier
Side to side pushers, baby.
your story is that you did get a gym, it failed. Can you tell us about that? Because I think that's a big and a critical part of your storyline of learning from your failures to get to where you are now.
Yeah, failed a lot. So I'd say the biggest failures, right off the bat, I started the first gym. So all the gyms that I had were more or less successful. I had one gym that I was a 90% owner of. I given 10% to an advisor to kind of like help me with it.
That's 70.
And then I had 2 other guys who said they could help me more. So then they bought in for very little, and I used what little money they gave me to buy the other guy out. But then they ended up buying 2/3 of the facility. So I was a 1/3 owner of my original gym, and I pretty much didn't take any money out of the gyms while we were growing them, because I would just take whatever cash to open up the new facilities. Ended up having a falling out with one of the 2 partners, so me and the other guy bought the other guy out. Kept doing, and using cash flow to make payments to him, and then also open new facilities. Until we got to about 6 locations. At this point, I was like, I don't know if this is what I like. It was very difficult. We're probably doing, I don't know, $2 million in top line, maybe 3. I honestly don't remember. And that was when I kind of reaching this weird point where I didn't know what to do. I wasn't making a ton of money, but it was just a weird spot for me. And so I went to a speech, or like a seminar thing, like one of those events. And there was a guy who was talking about online marketing. And I was like, man, I need to learn some of this stuff. So So I didn't do anything. I waited a year, and then during this like weird moment, I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll go join one of his like events or whatever. So I joined this guy's event, and when I was there, I was like explaining my whole model and how I'd open up each facility at full capacity. And he was like, you should show other people how you do this. And so that was kind of the big shifting point for me, going from, okay, I'm going to go from 6 locations to 10 locations to maybe I'll start this turnaround thing. So I started the turnaround thing, and it started working. And so then I sold all the gyms. I didn't sell for a lot. I sold them, probably in aggregate for like 250 grand, which for anybody who's listening, that's not a lot of money for 6 locations. It was almost just like the hard costs of the assets. But I was really committed to this new direction. And so I put all the cash that I got from that sale into this new partnership that I decided to do with a guy who had been indicted for fraud, which I knew about.
All right, 10 barrel cross.
I filled up a gym, and we were supposed to partner on these new gyms together. And he would come and operate them after I filled them up. So it's gonna be like a launch and go model. I'd open up 1 or 2 facilities every month, and he'd come and fill it up. So I crushed this launch. I did 380 something new members in the first 21 days. These were at $600 a pop for 6 weeks. It was a training facility, not like a membership facility. And then I looked at the bank account one day, and all the money I put in, plus all the cash that we generated, was taken out. And he was like, well, I know that you're skimming profits, so I'm just taking my half. And I was like, jeez, what? And he hadn't paid for anything. I was the one who was guaranteeing the lease, of course, because he had financial difficulties. I was like, oh yeah, don't worry, it's just a big misunderstanding. And so, anyway, so there I am now, and I have no cash in the bank account. I lost everything that I just spent 5 years building with the gyms. And I think at this point, just in my personal savings, I had like 25, just not a lot of money. And I couldn't sell more people because I didn't want to keep doing the gym thing. I wanted to do this other thing. And so I basically just had to stomach the hard cost of the gym with no new revenue coming in, which was horrible. So I just basically had to pay payroll and rent everything. And if you have no inflow, it goes down very fast. And so within 6 weeks, I was able to close that last facility. So that was where the sold 5 had the one that I ended up closing down was that one. And so now here I am, I have nothing left. And Layla at the time was like, hey, we should still do that, lunch thing where we just like fill other people's facilities up and we don't own it. We just take the cash that we generate. And so we started doing that again. And so we did the next launch. We hired a sales guy to go do it. He did 100 grand in a month, which is basically about what we'd average. So I was like, okay, this is my fresh start. I'm going to get this money. And then for some reason, the money didn't come in. And so I'm checking the bank account every day. And I was like, where's this money? I got processed payment. I see it's successful.
All right. That's 80.
And so I call the processor up and they're like, oh, it's a standard annual review. And I was like, I've been with you guys like 6 years. You've never had an annual review. And call 2 days later, same thing, call 2 days later. And then finally, it's Christmas Eve. And I'm back at Layla's parents' house. I've never met them before. This is the first time they're meeting me, the winner, who now had lost everything and had no money. And the only shot I had at making money, the money was not coming in. And so on Christmas Eve, I called them up and I was like, I'm not getting off the phone until you just give me money that is mine. And they said no. Yeah, right. And so I had a sales guy that I owed about $22,000 in commissions, and I had $23,000 left after all of this, shittiness. And so I wired him 22, and I had $1,000 left, and it was Christmas Eve. And so that was December of 2016. So it's, whatever it is now, 2023. So I was at $1,000 left in total at that point. I screenshotted it because I was like, I'll remember this.
You still have that screenshot?
I do. And 2 days later, Layla had convinced all of her friends to quit their jobs to join this art thing. So 6 of her friends had quit their jobs, which was great. I felt
90
super responsible for that. And so I told her, I have this credit card from all my gyms that they haven't canceled yet. I've got a $100,000 limit, and this could go horribly wrong. And so I think I'm a sinking ship, and you should probably get out. And so she
95
listened to me, and she said I would sit with you under a bridge if it came to that. And that was probably my moment for knowing that Layla was going to be the girl I was going to be with for a long time. And so I put $3,300 a day on a credit card with only $1,000 in my bank account.
All right.
To launch 6
That's 100, baby.
That next month, which made no sense. And if I were advising me, I would say that's retarded.
Boop.
But I just was wildly insecure and felt like I lost all the money that I was making, and I wanted to have a comeback, and I just went for it. And so, mind you, I didn't have a way to process money.
Okay.
So I'm doing $3,300 a
All right,
day
you guys
with
ready?
zero ability to generate cash.
Squats,
And
baby.
so we were stacking 60 contracts every day that were selling across these locations, and I had no way to process the money. And so I thought I could get a processor easily. That was not the case, especially if you've been shut down by a processor, because it's kind of like a black mark.
Yeah.
And just for context, the reason I got shut down was because I was doing sales through a brick and mortar location not in that state. So I was basically running all these launch sales through my brick and mortar location in California, but I was in like Canada and wherever. And they were like, this is irregular, seems weird, we're gonna shut it down. And so anywho, by the way, they never gave me that money. So the $100,000, they just kept it. They never gave it back 6 months later. They just
shitting me?
Nope, they kept it. So I ended up getting a new account they gave me a $50,000 limit to process money. And thankfully it was per calendar month. So I got it live on January 29th. I knew this whole time we're processing. I'm spending $3,300 a day. We're getting all these contracts stacked up, and people were calling us like, "Hey, like, why aren't you running my card?" We're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna get to it."
Don't worry.
Yeah, it's great.
Good faith.
yeah, right. And so 29th of January comes, and I run 50 grand in a day, and I still have another 100 grand in contracts.
That's 20.
And so then on February 1st, 2 days later, I run another 50 through the same thing. So I have 100, and I'm spending $3,300 a day, so I can cover my credit card bill. And now I'm back at zero again. So I'm still poor. But I got 2 more processes online, and then I was able to bump those. And so the next month I was able to do like 180, I think. And I think we had like 30 grand in profit. And I was like, okay, we might be out of this. And so right as I thought we were out of the woods, March came around. We started the next, few launches, or 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever it was. And then 2 of the locations, which for us, the sales guys weren't as
Sturdy, baby.
Like I would average about 100 grand. I think they averaged like 50 in cash collected per location, somewhere in there. And 2 of the gyms that we launched out of 6 in January stood up on chairs and told everybody to refund with me, and that they would fulfill the same thing for half the price. So just for context, the way our turnaround model worked is we would fly out there. I would spend the money on the hotels, airfare, rental cars, food for the sales guys, commissions, ad spend. And our deal was we keep all the cash that we bring in for X period of time, which was like a 6-week
40.
program. And then after that, the gym got to convert however many members. So it was all free. It was all free for them. They didn't have to do anything. They just had to like do a good job for the 6 weeks. That was their actual cost, was delivering. And then they convert whoever they want on the back end. But they were like, hold on, let me do the math here. They were like, you signed up 150 people at my gym for $500 each. That's $75,000. I made $30,000 last year, and you ripped 75 out of my gym in 21 days.
Which is in half, anyways.
Right.
So
they just told them all to refund and then sign up through them. Not all of them did that, but a couple guys did, and that's because you sell to
that's
sell
50
to people, and broke people do broke people things, and that's it.
That was a clever point. He said, broke people do broke people things. Don't be broke people. All right. Dream Team, I love you guys. I do it for you. I do it for me. I do it for we, the people. Dream Team, baby.